We're not there.
Well, you said you're going to have Alice flying by 2020. That's a pretty aggressive schedule. How are you going to do that?
Oh,
And where is this going to be done? You're going to build all this in Israel or what?
it's a very good question. First of all, we are extremely aggressive, but I think one of the points of being aggressive is starting early. We've been building since 2015.
Okay.
So if I would tell you in 2015, oh, it was going to take me 5 years to bring the plane to market, you'd say, okay, that's kind of aggressive, but it's not so bad. So we started early.
Okay.
We've been spending a lot of money and a lot of effort on this. And yes, we've done most of the work so far in Israel. But we have recently partnered with an Italian airframe manufacturer that I cannot yet name. I
Okay.
promise to have next press release for you guys as well.
Okay.
But we recently finalized the conditions for a partnership with an Italian partner that will do, let's say, certification risk sharing. So some of the construction of the plane will be done jointly. The certification process will be done jointly. And we intend to do it at the same time in Europe under CS23 and in America under Part 23.
All right.
And the whole idea is to look at the new draft of Part 23 that the FAA came out with, and that I think the European EASA has followed the suit really recently, and to just do it together based on ASTM standards as the base of compliance. So we will do it both in the Europe and in the US at the same time. We intend to fly our first certifiable prototype by the end of 2018, which
Okay.
is why we believe that by 2020 we should be post-certification, despite the fact that there are many new things in
All
the
right.
plane.
All right. So what were people telling you in Paris?
There was a lot of excitement, much more than we expected. We are a small player in Paris. It's the biggest
Yeah.
show on earth, and
Been there, done that.
oh, exactly. It's like I always laugh that the movies where there are all those lines of skyscrapers, and then this tiny house of the old man who didn't sell. So
Right.
that was us.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing because the old man still can sell and make a lot of money, and also build a very nice house around it. So that's what we're doing. We've had a lot of interest from partners who are bigger players than we are, that said, you know what, this makes sense. We love the design. We would like to see this happen, and we can supply X or Y. I believe out of it will come some cooperations in terms of mitigating some of the risks when going to certification. I believe we'll have, at the end of the day, probably before the end of this year, a consortium of 3 or 4 companies that are risk-sharing partners to get this to market.
Okay.
And in a way, I think it's the only way a startup can really bring a new plane to market, unless it has hundreds of millions of dollars to bear.
Why not a hybrid? You've got space in the
Very
back
good
of
question. Yeah.
you could put a turbine back there. You could put an IC engine of some kind back there. Why not a hybrid?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We believe that one of the biggest benefits of electric propulsion is the simplicity and the benefits that derive from it in terms of maintenance cost and maintenance procedures. When you do a hybrid, you're actually leaving a turbine and its gas system and its cooling system and its air intakes and so on and so forth in the line of your propulsion system, which means you're going to have to do the whole type certification around that as well.
All right.
So the real question is, do you get all the benefits, and what do you get when you leave it a hybrid? So if you want to fly thousands of miles, yes, by all means, you cannot do it with a battery right now, or at least not with a solution that we found that could be, let's say, that could go to market within 2 or 3 years.
All right.
If you want to do just the best solution out there for the 600-mile aircraft, or the best solution out there for a 200-mile aircraft that just doesn't have to charge every time it lands,
Right.
then probably you would like to go with the full-blown all-electric battery powered, because again, it's way simpler as a system, and the benefits in terms of direct operating costs are going to be tremendous.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about charging that battery, because obviously 980 kilowatt
80, yeah.
hours would take
That
a
will
long
take a
time.
while, right?
So what's the plan? What's the plan for
Okay, so
Recharging the
first of all,
battery or
it's
swapping?
no, we're not. First of all, again, as I said, if you want to do a 65% of your weight of your maximum takeoff weight as battery, swapping that would be a geometrical miracle because it's
Yeah.
everywhere,
Yeah.
and it's much easier to swap the people or any
Right.
other cargo. So just buy another aircraft. But what we found is that most of the regional players, and I'm talking about even the established airlines, or let's say the established air taxi operators, players like Wheels Up and Cape Air in the East Coast, or even the bigger, even United has flights that go 200 miles. We looked at the profile of this regional travel, and we found that a lot of people actually travel in the area of 100, 200, 300, maybe 400 miles before it begins to make sense to go on a big jet aircraft,
All right.
to go on a 737. And why is that? That's usually because you want to use the smaller airfields. That's usually because you want to be able to not stand in line for 2 hours, take your shoes off, put them back on, so on and so forth. So you don't want to go into a $1 billion facility and stand in line to go for what should be a half-hour trip
Yeah.
or a 1 hour trip.
Yeah.
So this is where it matters. And what we did is we did some profile with a lot of help, by the way, from Cape Air, among others, that said, you know what, you can look at our numbers. Look at how far people actually go. And that's what we did. And we saw that they're using planes that can go probably over 1,000 nautical miles with the fuel in their tanks,
To fly
but they're going
200.
70.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
going 70.
Yeah.
They're going 100. They're going 200.
Boston
So
to Cape, Boston to Cape Cod or Boston to Martha's Vineyard. Or, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And even even Boston to area to upstate New York or to anywhere else in the
Right. Bangor,
even
Maine.
to the Washington area.
Yeah.
So the idea is you can do a few hundred miles, and then you're going to land anyway. You're going to take people out because they're not going to be in a cabin without a toilet for more than, let's say, 90 minutes.
Right.
You're going to take the people out, and what you lost is 90 minutes of flight. Now, what you need is a very big battery, so you'll have the reserve you need. You'll have the ability to move the plane around if you want to just fly it to a near airstrip to do your next leg. You need the flexibility, so you don't want to charge necessarily every time.
Right.
But you definitely want to be able to just land and then gain some very, very quick charge. Now, here we differ dramatically from a car because when you have almost a 1 megawatt-hour battery,
Yeah.
if I'm charging at 400 kilowatt,
Yeah.
which would be tremendous. I mean, charging at 400 kilowatt does not exist on a Tesla, not because it's not possible, because charging at 4C is going to destroy your battery over time.
Yeah.
4 times the capacity of the battery, right? So
Right.
we're charging at 400 kilowatt, but we're only doing 0.4C or 0.45.
Oh, okay.
So that's not so bad on the battery. So you're not losing cycle life, and what you're actually gaining is for every hour on the ground, you can fly for an hour and a half. And this magical number, that for every hour on the ground, I can fly for more than an hour, is the most significant thing for the operator. We went through the numbers with more than one company, and they said, you know what? Show me that you can replace my existing Beechcraft King Air 350s, my
Yep.
existing Cessna 402s, my existing Pilatus PC-12s.
Right. Your Swearinger Metroliner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They are operating these lines. Show me that I can swap to electric with the same number of aircraft. And that's what we planned for. That was the mission for the designers. And I think that once you do it this way, you have a very, very good chance in hitting the nails in this market.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about finance. How you said you're privately financing this. You've got some possible upcoming risk takers. So can you sort of share with us how much money have you got in this project at this point?
Okay. So we were lucky in two ways. First of all, we got some private finance from very good people who just, put their hand in their pocket, and seed money was high in the beginning of this program. The next thing that happened is that the Israeli government said, you know what, this is interesting enough for us to test. And after shaking us and seeing whatever drops, they said, okay, you know what, that's not so bad. So we're going to put our hands in our pocket as well. We got roughly another $1 million of grant, and we have some more probably coming up soon. So we managed to get along to prototype on private money alone.
Okay.
I believe that from this point onward, and we are, as you can hear, relatively advanced. I believe the cost to market is more or less $50 million. That's 50. So it's not a small feat to go,
Right.
but again, with these risk-sharing partners, and probably with one or two financial players that will join our table, costing us some equity, but you have to do what you have to do, right?
Yeah.
So I think that now the risk looks different, because when you start a new company and you're saying, you know what, I'm a startup, I have a great idea, it's going to take roughly between 70 and $100 million to bring it to market. Oh, and I need 10 years of your patience, please. That's not a good pitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
a good pitch. So we're not there anymore. We had brave enough founders to really take those corners,
Yeah.
and we're extremely efficient with our use of funds. I believe that now our financing goals are roughly $10 million that we will need to shed from our side, maybe a bit more, and risk-sharing partners and the local governments where we're actually building the plane will participate. So while we need 50, the company will be anywhere between 25, let's say between 20 and 30% of that whole cake finance, and this we can do. It needs to be said that Eviation, because of its long-term prospect and because of the need to finance this over time, we built the company inside, inside a bankrupt NASDAQ public company.
Okay.
And this is where we started. So today it is traded without any. We never asked for money from the public. Never. Well, not yet anyway.
Right.
But it is. It has a ticker, and it is alive off the counter at the moment.
Right.
And I believe that once the orders begin to come in, and we have a few conditionals that are being negotiated. But once the orders begin to come in, and once the finance for the certification process is clear, we will go to the market and have a public offering that will allow us to.
And so doing this IPO is going to be a little bit easier since you already have a ticker. Can you share with us what the symbol is, or not yet?
Yes, it's EVTNF because it's a foreign issuer. So
Right.
It's EVTNF. At the moment, of course, there is no trade because it's under 0.1% of the company is actually floated.
Right.
But I believe we will have a PO within the 2018 timeframe.
Okay, cool, good. Well, look, Omer, thank you for taking all the time for me here and talking about this exciting project. Very excited to see it.
Thank you for having me. It's the end of the day, so I was happy to do it, and anytime.
Well, enjoy and go get yourself a glass of wine or whatever you guys in Israel drink. And
it will be beer tonight.
It will be beer tonight. Good for you, man. All right, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Have a great day.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.